Hello, friends. Happy March the 1st, and welcome to episode number 16 of Nostalgia Talk. I'm James, and before I introduce my guest, as usual, whenever it's been recently the birthday of a past guest, I always like to give them a shout out. This past Thursday, February the 25th, was the birthday of past guest Lewis Henry Mitchell. Some of you might know Lewis as creative director of character design for Sesame Street. He came on here not too long ago and shared all kinds of interesting stories, and you can check that one out if you'd like. So Lewis, happy birthday. It was great talking to you these last few days. And now on with the show. Today on Nostalgia Talk, Stuart Pankin. Welcome, Stuart.
Stuart Pankin, I've heard of him. How you doing, James? Good to see you.
It's great to see you as well. Thank you for coming, or being
Pleasure.
Here, rather.
I don't know. Very few of us know where we are anymore. I mean, days turn into weeks, months, years. It's like we could be on Venus. We don't know.
That would be kind of interesting, actually, to check out life on Venus.
Yes.
Now, for the listeners who don't know, Stuart is well known as a TV actor. He was the voice of Earl Sinclair in the TV show Dinosaurs. He was on Not Necessarily the News. He was Commander Edward Plank in the Disney Channel Xenon films. And if you're my age, you'd recognize him from That's So Raven, Shake It Up, and Girl Meets World. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for the resume.
I do that for everybody.
I know you do.
So can you talk a little bit about how you got interested in acting?
When I was a kid, I always enjoyed when we had family dinners, getting up and prancing around and singing stuff and reciting stuff. There was nobody in my family that was really in show business except for my uncle, who was a box office man, very well-known box office man, who was actually asked by Flo Ziegfeld to come from Philadelphia to New York to manage the Ziegfeld Follies, which he did. But nobody in my family was into acting. My dad, was always a fun guy to hang out with and be around. But acting, I signed up to be a psychology major in college. And, because I enjoyed it in high school, I thought it was really interesting. But when I got there, there was an audition. The audition came out for Our Town, which was the play in Dickinson. And I walked across that dark, scary campus as a freshman and auditioned, and I knew that was it. I mean, I knew that I wanted to be involved in show business and acting. Of course, the director of the we didn't have a drama program, a drama major at Dickinson, but there were about 5 classes, and the director of the plays was a guy named Dave Brubaker, who was a brilliant director, and we became very, very good friends over the years until he died. And that's what got me interested in acting. I mean, my experiences at school, at college, got me involved. I mean, I was involved with every play and every music I could do. Short of having a drama major. My friend in the department said the proper major for an actor is English. Now, if we had a drama department, he might have said drama, but and I did that. I switched over to English and just kept doing plays and enjoyed it, tremendously for 4 years.
Where did you go to college, if you don't mind me asking?
I do mind you asking, but I'm going to answer anyway. I went to Dickinson for undergraduate school. I went to Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and graduate school, I went to Columbia to get a MFA in theater.
Okay, cool. What was your very first on-camera role?
Well, the very first, and I don't even know how. I think there was a film when I was at Columbia. There was a theater department and a film department, and I guess I got to know a director in the film department. I'm making this up, but the first role was I played a taxi driver in some little short film. That's the first thing I did. And, sitting in a cab and saying, 2 or 3 words and driving off. So that was my first experience with film. The other early experience was I was an extra. You had to audition for it, for Next Stop Greenwich Village, which was Paul Mazursky's not Paul Mazursky. Paul, you'll look it up. You'll know who did Next Stop Greenwich Village. But it was a period piece, and you had to go down and audition as an extra. So you had to dress up and cut your hair and do it. So I got that job, and that was exciting. I mean, Bill Murray was an extra on that, and some other notable actors who later became fairly recognizable. But that was a great experience for me. I used to sneak down, from the extra holding pen, which was up in a warehouse or something, to go down to look at the set. And it was magic. It was just magic. Walls moved and music played, and then it stopped and people did dialogue. I didn't understand any of it. I just stood behind the camera. And the AD, he saw me doing this, and as a reward, he said, I'm going to upgrade you. You're going to have a line. And my salary bumped from like $35 to like $120. I mean, it was I felt that I found the pot of gold, when that money went up. And I had a line, and that was an exciting time to be an extra in that movie. So those are the things in New York, anyway, that were my theatrical, film start. I mean, I was an extra too. I was an extra, literally an extra, for a Serpico series that was shot in New York. And I hated that because you sit in a bus, they take you out, they put you in a restaurant, then they put you back in that I didn't like. So I didn't do that again. But those things, the cab driver and Next Stop Greenwich Village, were the first film things that were really memorable to me.
Wow, that's amazing that Bill Murray was on that as well. Did you know Bill Murray when he was doing it, or did you guys do it separately?
Oh, okay. No. As a matter of fact, I remember he did something, and he did something wrong, and the director yelled at him. I think he had a line, and he put his hand up in the wrong time, and the director sort of yelled at him. But no, I didn't know who he was then. I mean, I later realized when I saw him on his various projects who that was. I said, wow, he was. We were sharing an extra's bathroom together. It's exciting.
You're breathing the same air as Bill Murray.
Breathing the same air as Bill Murray. Well, I was heard long ago, we're breathing the same air as Leonardo da Vinci and Jesus. I mean, we could be breathing that air right now. That stuff doesn't go away. But that's another story.
So one of your first big roles was as Bob Charles in the sketch comedy, Not Necessarily the News. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Before you were born. Yeah, Not Necessarily the News was, it was on HBO on cable when there was, you'll pardon the expression, cable penetration was about 29%. And pay cable, which was HBO, was even less. And Not Necessarily the News was one of the first HBO shows that HBO produced. It started out as I don't know, it was like a guerrilla filming. I mean, our first dressing room was the bathroom at the Shell station in Sylmar, California, and the producers sort of said it would be great if you could buy gas so they wouldn't kick us out. I mean, that's the way it started. Girls dressing behind open doors in the cars, sitting on rocks, avoiding snakes, eating lunch. And it started out, it was really grassroots guerrilla filming. Sometimes we got permits to film in various locations. Nancy Severinsen, who was Doc Severinsen's daughter, was our location manager, and she was a whiz at getting us in and getting us out, legally or not legally, to film some of these outdoor sketches. And then it became better. I mean, when Not Necessarily the News became more well known and more appreciated, then things got better. I mean, we got a Winnebago, a trailer for the makeup and costumes and actors, and we didn't have quit at 12 and come back at 5, and then quit at 12 and come back at 5 again. I mean, it got a little easier, and it's a show. We're still friends, the actors and we're all still friends. Those of us are around, and it was exciting. It got me started. It really jumpstart my career in California.
I watched a little bit of Not Necessarily the News to get ready for this, and I will say it didn't feel, from what I saw at least, I didn't watch too much of it, but what I saw it felt more like a sitcom than a sketch comedy.
Well, there were sketches. The sitcom, when I think of sitcom, you're thinking about recurring characters and recurring storylines, and every week it's the same thing. We had recurring characters, obviously, the news team, but we did lots of things, more sketch than sitcom. We did commercials, and we did political sketches, and we did interviews, and if you watch more of it, you'll find out that it's, sitcoms have arcs. They have continuing storylines and repeating. And except for the newscast, the news characters, which are repeating, we did an awful lot of different stuff. I mean, they used to look at the ABC News footage, which people never saw. It was a live feed, and pick moments out, and we'd come in and interview the people based on those live feeds and sketch. We never changed the people that we filmed, Henry Kissinger, Reagan, Nancy, whatever, whoever. We never put words in their mouth, which was I think a good thing. I mean, I was happy about that. Nor did we use, and we could have, and we weren't smarmy or sexual or risque. I mean, and HBO, had the reputation of allowing people to do that. We never did that. It was really, if you understood the politics of it and the sketches, it was a family show. I mean, but which people could appreciate whether you were a parent or a kid. So there you go.
We have I feel like not necessarily the news inspired a lot of other satire news shows such as The Daily Show and Colbert Report. And we actually have one of those here in Halifax. This hour is 22 minutes.
This hour is 22 minutes?
The show's called This Hour Has 22 Minutes.
This hour has 22 minutes, and it's a news parody show?
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, okay, I'll try to find it. Yeah, Not the News. Not the News the idea came from Not the 9 O'Clock News, which is a British parody show. Oh. And that, I might have seen an episode or part of an episode years ago when I was doing the show. And yeah, people say that all the time, that Not the News inspired other things, and that's great. And it would be really swell if it was back on today, because there's an awful lot of things and people keep saying, why don't you do it again? And there's a lot of complicated political and financial reasons why we can't redo the show or do it again. But when it was on, it grew in its popularity, and it was very rewarding, to use a silly cliche, to be on that show. We were all very proud to do it. I mean, and like I said, we're still friends, and that was the icing on the cake. That those people are Mitch Lawrence, Annie Bloom, Lucy Webb, the late great Danny Breen. We're all, we all. My son was born during that show. We all shared a lot of stuff going through it, and it was, and the work was great. The friends were great. The social connections were great. It was great.
That's lovely. I'm a film student here, and about a year and a half ago, my classmates and I went to watch the taping of This Hour Has 22 Minutes, and I had heard that it was a sketch show, kind of like how Not Necessarily the News has been described. And I remember sitting with my friends Jordan and Bryce, and I just looked at them and I was like, this is almost just like The Daily Show, because I've watched The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and he's really funny. And actually, we at the end of the show, we took our photo, the three of us, at the desk that the newscasters, the comedian newscasters, I guess I'll call them, report at. And they actually did a skit. I think it had something to do with the province of Alberta. Mark Critch, who is one of the big stars of This Hour Is 22 Minutes, was impersonating Donald Trump. He was like, I am going to make Alberta the 51st state. We are going to make Alberta great again.
Cool.
But the funniest thing that they did, and I'll put a link in the corner of the video, is it was at the time when Canadian commentator Don Cherry was under fire for some very rude remarks he gave, and Mark Critch was playing Don Cherry, kind of saying, "Oh, it's not my fault. It's so and so's fault. I don't know what your problem is." But oh my God. And I'm thinking to myself, how are they not dying laughing doing it? A couple of times when I was watching, they had to reshoot a bunch of stuff. One actor, Trent McClellan, he's like, "I know, I screwed up on a line. Shut up," because he knew that the camera people were going to give him crap for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens all the time. Well, put a link to that, Joe. I wouldn't mind seeing a little of it. I won't understand a lot of it, but I'd like to see that, at least the format.
Oh, it's hilarious. And
I'll be the judge of that, James.
well, my friend Logan, another guy I went to film school with, he and a couple of other film school buddies of mine, they went to visit the set not too long ago, and so I taped it, and I was like, "I'll look for you guys in the audience." I don't think I saw them. So, how did you get the role of the one and only Earl Sinclair on Dinosaurs?
I auditioned for Dinosaurs. I mean, every actor in California auditioned for Dinosaurs because it's a great job. Voiceover jobs are terrific jobs to have. I'd worked with Michael Jacobs before who produced it on a show called not oh my God, No Soap Radio, which lasted about 5 or 6 episodes. And he was casting Dinosaurs, and he called me in, and I auditioned, and I got the job. I mean, it was just a very fortunate, wonderful thing that happened, because it was a great job.
What were your thoughts on the animatronic style of puppeteering that was done on that show? Because for anyone who doesn't know, the animatronic dinosaurs were done by Jim Henson's Creature Shop. It wasn't a Muppet show, but there were Muppet puppeteers who were doing the puppeteering for the characters. So were you like, what was your thoughts when you saw how the puppeteering was going to go down, as opposed to traditional Muppet style puppeteering that they do on the Muppet Show and Sesame Street?
Well, the animatronics made the thing sail. I mean, it was an incredibly complicated, clever. Well, let's start with this way. Every character had 3 elements to it: the suit actor, the guy who was inside; the voice actor who replaced the voice of the puppeteer. Henson puppeteers usually do their own voices when they do their puppets, but they open it up to other people. So the puppeteer, the animatronics, they had a device. It's hard to describe it, but it's like for lack of a better word, a keyboard. You stick your fingers in these contacts, and you can change it. If you move your one finger, the eyes go up, or if you move the other finger, the mouth goes down. And you can change that. If you change it the same finger, then the eyebrows go up. And that's the way they did it. They filmed it on the set with the puppeteers doing the dialogue. My puppeteer was a guy named Mac Wilson who he's a little English guy, talk like this, He said, "Hello, honey, I'm home."
I've talked with Mac Wilson before.
Have you?
Yo, I'm a huge Muppet fan. Like, I've got all kinds of connections with Muppets. One of my past guests was, I don't know if you know him, but Marty Robinson, who played Snuffy and Telly on Sesame Street. I don't think he did Dinosaurs.
No, well, most of the people who did the puppets on Dinosaurs, the animatronics, and sometimes the hand puppets were obviously they were Henson puppeteers. Kevin Clash, one of the more famous ones.
Elmo.
Yeah. Elmo, and he did the baby. But that's, then we went in, and Mac did the dialogue, and then we went in, and what we saw was the mouth moving, and we heard the dialogue, and we had to replace it. So Mac, instead of doing this, honey, I'm home, then they used my voice and we had to match the voice movements, which was interesting, challenging, somewhat frustrating artistically, because you had to match his rhythms as opposed to creating your own rhythms. In animation, when you do a cartoon, you do the voice first, and then they animate to your voice. In Dinosaurs, they did the voice movements first, and then you had to match it. And that's the way it works. In the animatronics, it was one of the most expensive shows, half-hour shows ever, maybe on television, which is why it probably didn't go on for longer, because the puppets, to maintain those 7-foot, 6-7-foot puppets were a challenge and very costly. and the animatronics, I don't know, what it cost to maintain that. But working together, technically, it was spectacular. I mean, I was on the set any number of times just to look around, and it was a spectacular, magical little set with these little creatures, big creatures running around, and little actors under this raised set, sticking their hands up, into the puppets and making them come alive. It was swell. I mean, and then Kevin and I also we did a Dinosaurs story time album. I remember we were in a studio, and big story, Dinosaurs, big stories, and he was the baby, and I was Earl, and we told these stories, and that's out someplace, as well as doing a Dinosaurs song, a big song album, and I was happy enough to write a couple of songs for that, and it was a great 3 years, whatever it was swell.
I started watching Dinosaurs now that it's streaming on Disney Plus, and it is hilarious.
Yeah, it's a terrific show. Fun for the whole family. If you appreciate the politics and the subtleties of the politics, you can appreciate it, and the kids can love those puppets bopping around. It's it's swell. It's a good show, extremely well written. I mean, most of the writers on our show on Dinosaurs are now showrunners and writers for many other series. Most of them went on to wonderful careers.
I remember when I watched the first episode of Dinosaurs. It was in the morning. My mom was getting ready for work. My mom's a teacher, and she walked by. She's like, "What in the world is this?" I said, "Oh, it's Dinosaurs." And my father remembered Dinosaurs, but my mom never watched it. And so she is looking at it here and there, and she's like, "I cannot believe that this was a show on TV that people watched." I kind of understand what she's saying. It was very slapstick for a sitcom.
Yeah. It was very physical, if that's what you mean by slapstick.
Especially the baby.
The baby was great. I mean, yes, it was. Like I said, it was everybody, all ages could appreciate it, because the visual effects were fabulous, and the dialogue, the writing was. The kids could understand it, but the adults could appreciate it a little bit more.
My favorite moments with Earl is any moment with the baby where the baby's hitting him on the head. Not the mama, not the mama, not the mama. And
that's what people remember.
And I remember Earl saying, "You do that one more time and I'm going to throw you across the room." The baby didn't care.
The baby liked it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was totally fine with it. But also with what you were saying about the Muppet performers, for the most part, doing the voices and the puppeteering, I will say two guests I had on here had some connections with Sesame Street, songwriter and composer Chris Surf and vocalist Ivy Austin. Both of them, while they voiced Muppets, they never actually did the puppeteering.
Oh, interesting. Well, then there are exceptions to that rule.
They both said that they weren't very good at it.
Not good at voicing or the puppeteering.
At puppeteering is like,
yeah,
Ivy.
That's tough. That takes a special skill.
Yeah, Ivy did a lot of vocals in like animated skits. There was one that I really love, 5 waltzing chairs dance all in a line. And Chris actually told a little story that if they needed extra puppeteers, he would kind of just hold them up, and they would say, "If you move that puppet, we'll notice."
Cool. Yeah, the Hensons were remarkable company, and they did some great stuff. I mean, what more can you say?
Yeah. Did you get to know Jim Henson before he passed away? Because he developed.
I met him maybe once. Okay. He died very soon after we started the show. Brian, his son, who I did get to know him better, but Jim, no, sadly. Actually, when I was in New York years ago, I was on a show called Free to Be You and Me. Marlo Thomas and the Muppets were involved with that show. It was one of the first things I did in New York. I was an extra. I mean, I was in the background, but I think Mr. Henson was there, and the Muppets were there, and Mel Brooks, he wasn't there, but he voiced some of the babies. So that's my relationship with the Henson people, Jim Henson. I sadly didn't get to know him, but Brian is carrying on his legacy brilliantly.
Yeah, I don't know Brian, unfortunately, but I agree with you. He's done an amazing job.
Yeah.
So another role that you are known for is as Commander Edward Plank in the Xenon films for Disney Channel, which have become wildly popular.
Cool.
Yeah, like I was born after the first one premiered on Disney Channel. So I believe it or not, I haven't actually sat down and watched them. But for the nostalgic listeners out there, could you talk a little bit about the Xenon films?
First of all, James, sit down and watch them. I mean, what the hell's the matter with you? Watch the darn movie. Xenon, it was just a 3-episode, 3 movies based on Zenon, Girl in the 21st Century, written by Stu Krieger, who is actually, he wrote all 3 of them, and he's still remains a friend of mine. And it was just about these kids in space. It was kids in space. I mean, and they were popular enough to make 3 of them. I mean, there's not much to say. I mean, we did them all over the place. We did the first one in Vancouver, the second one in New Zealand,
Oh, wow.
and the third one in South Africa. So we went all over the globe doing these Xenon movies. And the nice thing is, I mean, the sad thing is, it was going to go on. It was going to be maybe a Xenon series, a Xenon full movie, and then I think 9/11 happened.
Oh.
And all that stuff was shelved. I mean, that all died, you know. So I'm sorry that happened. That was a big disappointment. But you're right. The kids, you know, seem to really, and when I say kids, I mean you. The kids really like Xenon. I mean, and they follow the Girl of the 21st Century stories. And I remember very little of the plots, and I actually wrote a little parody song about that, which I do. Xenon car, you've gone too far. You're in a heap of trouble. You know, it goes on and on and on. But the kids, you know, if they recognize me now, it's always the Disney stuff. It's the Ravens. It's the Xenon. It's the, you know, since this pandemic has happened, and I'm not bragging necessarily, but since Dinosaurs has been on Disney Plus, I have literally gotten 2 to 4 autograph requests by mail a day.
Wow.
That's been happening for months, and they usually, you know, these Funko Pop figures, you know, gotta know what that is, right?
Yep, I have quite the collection of them.
Well, they send them to me, and they spend a lot of money. Now they probably get them back, and I know they sell them on eBay, which is fine. I don't care. I mean, I'm not, you know, I don't. There are facilities that will charge you for autographs. There are companies that will sign you up, and I don't do that. I don't care. I sign the Funko, Punko, and Lunko boxes, and I send them back. You know, and but that's how popular, you know, Dinosaurs is. Xenon, I occasionally get an autograph request for Xenon, but Xenon was great to do because, like I said, we traveled all over the world, met some nice people. Still friendly with them. I'm a friendly guy, James. I guess.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people don't mind hanging out with me.
And you have a good sense of humor.
I do. That's why I get the big bucks.
You and another past guest that I had who has had a career very similar to yours, Patrick Bristow.
I know who Patrick Bristow. We might be Facebook friends. I know who he is. A funny guy, nice guy.
Oh yeah.
I can't say he's a nice guy because I don't know him. I don't like to throw around stars, you know, star names. But yeah, I know who he is. And he's
I definitely enjoyed talking to him when he came on here.
Yeah, more than me.
I knew that was coming. Somehow I just had a feeling that was coming.
Yeah. So getting back to Xenon and getting rid of Patrick Bristow.
I'm sorry, Patrick, if you're listening.
Sorry, Patrick. I think you're great. And I do. So that was, it was 3 movies filmed in interesting places with interesting people. And again, like Dinosaurs, it's become very popular, and it stood the, what's the word? Oh yeah, test of time.
Oh, maybe once I've watched the Xenon films. What I do is sometimes I do what I call a nostalgia talk bonus, meaning I'll maybe do clip shows of past episodes, talk about past films and TV shows, or show old toys that I have, or maybe even bring back past guests for some nostalgic fun. Maybe after I've watched the Xenon films, I'll do a little nostalgic bonus video and I'll have you back.
Maybe. You're damn right you'll have me back. I've already booked the time.
I'll check my email to see if that's been scheduled for me.
So you're like a computer expert. You can get the clips and put things on the computers, and you know stuff, right? My son's like that. My son's older than you, but
Oh, wow.
as far as computers, he's light years beyond me, and apparently you are too. So, but you guys grew up with this stuff, so I mean, and it's great. It's really great. I wish I knew half the stuff you kids know about technology and computers. But enough about you. Let's talk about me.
Deal. So So you made 2 appearances on That's So Raven, which is a show that a lot of my friends my age grew up with. Like everyone my age watched that show when it was popular. And you played Mr. I hope I'm saying this right, Grzowski, which was their very yeah.
Sounds good. Grzowski. Yeah, I remember.
Okay, yeah, it's something like that. And I remember that character being very sloppy and disorganized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're asking me the details, I don't remember the details. He was a teacher. He was sloppy and disorganized. He was a little harsh with the kids, a little I don't know what the word is. But he was not cruel to the kids, but he was a martinet. He was that's what I remember. And I remember being sloppy, like you said. I remember little moments of his being sloppy and having stuff in his desk like sandwiches that were 12 years old or something. The interesting thing is, and I don't know if there's a connection, but Raven was very much a part of the early Xenon movies.
Oh yeah.
She was I forget the name of the star who later became a soap opera celebrity, young girl. But yeah, Raven was on Xenon for at least the 2 shows, and then maybe came back as a guest spot because she'd by then gone on to bigger things. But yeah, I remember Raven. I guess that was Disney, right? And was it Disney?
Yeah, it was actually Disney Channel's highest rated show for years.
Really? Yeah, I actually, they were going to audition me for her new show, which I guess is on now, Raven's Home or something.
Yep.
And they decided not to because I was associated with her from the previous show. So they didn't want to do that, which is fine. Just cost me a lot of money to.
I still remember you were in one of my very favorite episodes of Raven, actually, where I think what happened was Raven's dad was opening up his restaurant, and Eddie and Chelsea were trying to avoid Raven from finding out that they were putting together a number, because all Raven would do is just control it. So they're passing each other notes, Eddie and Chelsea, and it falls into Raven's hands, and your character picks it up and just grinned at Raven and was like, "It's mine now." So she has to try and get it. So she intentionally breaks her pencil just so she can get it sharpened, and then asks you, "Can I sharpen my pencil?" And you went, "No, I'm kidding. Go ahead."
Wow, what a memory! I mean, well, this is a long time ago for me, so I don't remember the details, but thank God somebody does. I appreciate it.
Well, when I rewatched that episode not too long ago, I remember seeing the teacher's name, Mr. Grzowski, and I heard it as Wazowski. And mind you, I'm a Disney kid, so I immediately thought of Mike Wazowski from Monsters, Inc.
Oh.
Which is actually really good timing. Can I tell you a little story?
You can. It's your show.
So I walk every day. The community that I live in, there's a little loop where I walk that loop every day. Sometimes I walk my dog, or I'll walk by myself. And I think about at 10 a.m. today, I walked, and there was a white car that was pulled over, and a lady, I think it looked like she was taking her grandson out of the car, and the trunk was wide open. There was a little Mike Wazowski toy, and being a Disney geek, I couldn't help but to notice it. And I looked at the lady, and I was like, I couldn't help but notice Mike Wazowski flopping in the trunk of your car. She's like, "Oh, is that what that character's name is?" And I said, "Yes, that's from Monsters, Inc., which was the very first film I ever saw in the theater. And she said,
Wow.
do you want it? So
Wow.
here it is.
Wow. You think that's going to be worth something?
Probably. Well, apparently this came from a McDonald's Happy Meal.
Oh,
And
then it's not worth a lot. If it's not in the package, it's probably not worth anything. I mean, I had a lot of dinosaur stuff, and I either gave them away or opened them up, so it's not worth anything. I remember, talking about stories, being asked to do to host some show that involved the Ninja Turtles or that, and somebody, it was before they'd come on the air, and somebody handed me a little Ninja Turtle doll, and had I kept that doll, that was like a prototype of the character. I could be living in Halifax right now, but I think I gave it. I said, Ninja Turtles. What the hell is that? I don't care about that. Now I care.
that
Unfortunately, your McDonald's character is probably just for your own, amusement. I don't think it's going to put you to college.
I guess we'll find out.
Okay, that's right.
So I once saw you on an episode of Girl Meets World where you got to play the school's principal, very stubborn principal,
Yes.
Mr. Yancey. Now, did that come about because of your connection to Michael Jacobs?
Well, I might have gotten into the audition, but I had to audition for it. I remember very clearly auditioning for it. So whether Michael pushed for me, and if he did, God bless him. But yeah, I'm sure it had something to do with my relationship with Mike.
Nice. Because Michael, for the listeners who don't know, as Stuart had said, Michael created Dinosaurs, but he also created Boy Meets World, which was a lot more of a serious show than Dinosaurs was. Girl Meets World was on Disney Channel, so it was kid friendly, but it was very, very serious as well. And Girl Meets World was actually one of the shows that inspired me to want to get into filmmaking.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. I'm glad I changed your life.
Well, get this. This is episode number 16 of Nostalgia Talk. I was 16 years old when I discovered that.
Wow.
Because a lot of the shows I was watching, I was still watching Disney Channel, Nickelodeon. And because I was growing up, I felt a lot of the storylines of the episodes were very similar to my own life. And
that's very interesting.
So I took all of that and I wrote a script out of it that was based upon my experiences in high school, the people I knew in and outside of high school, a lot of my friendships, and I also used my Jim Henson's influence on my life in that as well.
Anything in it for me?
You know what? Maybe one day I'll hire you. I would love that.
Well, I'm actually, this is why I'm here. I'm looking forward to, cultivating the youngins.
And in that particular episode of Girl Meets World, I still remember it to this day because I've been watching it a couple of times to get ready for this, because Girl Meets World was one of my favorite Disney Channel shows.
Good.
And basically the episode, just for the listeners who don't remember it, and maybe this will help jog your memory. You played a very stubborn principal who was kind of irritated by the fact that the new teacher, an English teacher, was teaching them comic books.
Right.
And the episode's lesson was that you can be a good teacher and show that fiction or nonfiction, there is still a little bit of reality in anything, life, stories, because a story, whether it's unrealistic or not, can still have some kind of connection to life. That's what
Absolutely.
I got out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was wrong and the teacher was right. You can learn something from anything. That's right. I remember that, the comic books, and I was put in my place by the former headmaster or principal or something. It was cool. It was great.
Yeah.
Joel Zwick was the director of that, who I'd worked with on a movie called Second Sight, which we filmed in Boston. Joel, of course, did that. What did he do? The Bob Saget series. He did many of those.
Full House.
He did Full House. So that was nice to be back with Joel.
Nice. Yeah, that was one of the things I really liked about that episode of Girl Meets World, is that it was almost like a a Boy Meets World reunion, because you have Anthony Tyler Quinn, I believe was his name, who played Mr. Turner.
Tony Quinn. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
great guy. I love working with him. Great guy.
Well, when
His wife makes some great brownies.
Well, when I made that
Oh,
discovery,
my wife just told me he made the brownies. His wife didn't make the brownies. He made the brownies.
They're really that good, huh?
They're great. He's a terrific guy, as was most of that cast. And the cast was, you come in to do a guest spot on a sitcom. Sometimes you really feel like the third wheel. But because I knew Michael, because I knew Joel, and Tony was very nice to me, and it was a pleasant set. They're not all pleasant, but this was a pleasant set, and it was great. I mean, it was cool.
Well, get this. When I made that discovery of wanting to get into screenwriting and directing, it was during a trip to LA, and I was in LA for a Disney event, and the cast of Girl Meets World was at the event. I got to see Sabrina Carpenter sing, and I love Sabrina Carpenter. And Rowan Blanchard, Ben Savage, they kind of walked by me. I wish I could have stopped and said hello, but I guess they had places to be. But still, it was pretty cool.
Well, just for future, no actor, well, that's not true. I don't think there's a lot of actors who would mind fans coming up and saying, hi, I love your work. Every time I see actors, mostly character actors that usually only I know, I mean, people might know their faces. I'll always go out of my way to tell them how much I love their work, because they appreciate it. So don't ever, get up to Ben Savage, grab him by the lapels and say, I'm a fan, Ben, nice meeting you. You might get arrested, but it's worth it. Spend a few days in jail, what the hell?
So what was it like to be in the film Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves?
Again, you're not going to ask me a lot of questions that my response is not going to be great, because it's all great. I mean, Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves was the first made-for DVD movie, maybe ever. I mean, it was meant to go direct to video, as opposed to the failures that go to video. This was made for video. It was directed by Dean Cundy, who was Steven Spielberg's director of photography.
Oh, wow.
It was a lot of green screen, which was interesting, oversized props and green screen. I got to work with Rick Moranis, who was a joy, and the four of us, the four adults that were in the movie, got along great. Allison Mack played my daughter. She's had some problems in the past, which we won't go into, but she was great. All the kids were great. Bug Hall. I think he was my son. But it was great. We filmed it in the old Howard Hughes warehouses where they built the Spruce Goose. They transformed them into a studio. And like I said, it was green screen, which means, well, you'll explain. I mean, it's special effects. You walk in front of a green screen and you act to nothing, and then they put in them the big monsters or ants and stuff. So that was very cool. And the oversized props were cool. And just working with those people were, I mean, I remember Rick and I hanging on harnesses about to be dropped into a bowl of what was supposed to be dip. God knows what it was. And we just started laughing. They couldn't shoot. We couldn't stop laughing. He couldn't stop laughing because something struck us funny. We're standing there. They're about to drop us into this goop. And we had to do it twice. Yeah, it was great. It was a fun project. And like I said, it was made for video. It's rarely on the networks or cable or pay. I never see it anywhere, and it's too bad, because it's a very good movie. It's a very fun movie. So if anybody's out there who wants to write a letter to Disney, tell them to put the damn thing on.
It's on Disney Plus.
It's on Disney Plus. See,
it's on Disney Plus here in Canada anyway. Not sure about the States.
I don't have Disney Plus. I suppose I should get it. Well, that's good. It's good to know that it's on there. Occasionally I get a check for 39 cents. I mean, I guess it's playing somewhere. But it's a very good movie. Dean and the cat, I mean, he did a very, very good job. And The interesting thing about that movie for me, just personally, is I remember the last night we wrapped. It was the last scene I did, and everybody was sick. And they drove me to an airport, and I had to fly down to Florida because I was in striptease. And that happened the next day. So I had to, jump on a plane, finish one of this project, jump on a plane, and go down to do another project. Those were the halcyon days. Those were the lazy, crazy days of employment. It was great.
Awesome. So before we wrap up, right before we were getting ready for this, I had a couple of conversations.
Drinks? Oh, had a couple of drinks?
I had a couple of good conversations with you. In one of those, you had mentioned that you had done a movie in Cape Breton, which is not that far away from where I am. What film were you doing?
It was a movie called Squanto, Indian Warrior. It was about Squanto, the first Indian that liaised between the settlers, the Pilgrims, and the Indian tribes. He was involved with the first Thanksgiving. It was directed by, I think his name was Xavier Kohler. He was an Academy Award-winning director for doing shorts or documentaries. Mm-hmm. And it was in Cape Breton, beautiful Cape Breton, wonderful people, beautiful place to be. And the problem with that movie is that it was Disney, and at the same time, Jungle Book came out.
Oh.
And they wanted to put their money into one thing, and they chose Jungle Book. Now, Jungle Book's a good movie. I think they could have done, both of them. They could have released them both and have been fine. It's great casting. And Michael Gambon was in it. Nathaniel Parker was in it. A lot of wonderful British actors. And Mandy Patinkin was in it. Donald Donnelly was a fabulous Irish actor. Was in it. I mean, they were great people, and the director did a terrific job. And it was a really interesting movie, and about a real life character with some interesting historical connotation. Never, because of, I think, Jungle Book, it never got its due. So you rarely see that around either. So maybe that's on Disney Plus too. I don't know. But it was a movie that I was very, as a matter of fact, I was cast in that movie by Lynn Stallmaster, who's classic, who just died actually. And I was very glad to have met him and glad that he gave me a job. It was some wonderful, wonderful people. It was a wonderful story. You should, if you haven't seen it, all those out there in Radioland, go try to get it, because it's really a good movie. It was 10 weeks of beautiful Cape Breton and Frambois. I remember we filmed at a place called Frambois in raspberries or something. And we filmed on the rocks where the waves were just pounding. There's lots of wonderful things in that movie. So if you ever get a chance, check it out, because it's good. It's good.
I'll definitely take your word for it. Sounds like a very interesting film.
You're damn right you'd take my word for it. I've never lied to you yet, James. Jeez. And you're, Nova Scotia, man. It's we talked a little about Cape Breton and the Cabot Trail, which is this loop that goes around the entire Cape Breton. It's just a gorgeous place, and the people are, spectacularly. We actually went to Glace Bay, which was a mining. I mean, there was a lot of coal mining in Nova Scotia and Cape Breton, and we saw the Miners' Choir, which was the only, at the time, maybe still, actual miners' choir in North America. There are some in England and Great Britain, but we went any number of times to see those guys. Those guys were great. They were miners, and sometimes you went again and somebody had died because of a mining accident. I mean, they were genuine, beautiful. There's a record called, a disc called, I'll ask my wife. You should listen to it. They're terrific. Will Rod, what is it? Hey, Joy, can I ask you a question? But you should get that disc if you can find the disc. It's Men of the Deeps, and it was about men of the but they were an actual miners' choir. Beautiful songs, And it was a great experience. I mean, you're in Nova Scotia's. I was trying to think of Men of the Deeps, and I couldn't think. Now I remembered. Sorry. Now my wife's mad at me for yelling at her. Yeah. So that's it. So that's it with Nova Scotia.
Well, Stuart, thank you very much for joining me for some nostalgia talk today. Is there anything
Pleasure,
else you'd like?
pleasure.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I mean, things are slow in the business. I'm just happy to go down memory lane with you and talk about some of this stuff, which was, very pleasant to do. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff. I've been in the business a long time. I'm very grateful, very happy. I'm glad there's still fans out there that want to talk to me, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thank you again for joining, and for the listeners, stay tuned because I've got another nostalgia talk coming this week, and I can't wait for you to hear it. And I've also got some great nostalgia talk bonus videos coming soon, and I've got a long lineup of more guests coming out real soon. But until then, peace.
Peace.